Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
You are listening to Scream with Ryan C. Showers, the podcast for Scream fans just like you. Join Ryan every week as he takes a deep dive into the horror film series that defined the 90s and redefined the genre. Scream with Ryan C. Showers is your source for scene and quote analysis, character dissections, and the latest news about upcoming installments of the Scary Movie franchise.
I hear you like horror movies, Kirby, but do you like them as much as him?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scream with Ryan C. Showers podcast, where the film critic meets the Scream fan twice a week, every Tuesday and Friday. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Now, before I go any further, I need to thank the producers of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. They include Ashley Summers from the Squirrel and Spud Shop. She and I host a Scream game every Wednesday on Instagram, so please check that out. I also need to thank TJ Jones, who comes from the Box Office Buds podcast. He is responsible for all of the graphic design of Scream with Ryan C. Showers in terms of new episode cards on social media promotion. So thank you so much to TJ for all he does. I also need to thank contributors Amar Karim, Mark Vieira, and Joey Velisi. Joey Velisi is the guy who writes the scripts for Scream with Ryan C. Showers. Episode 112, we wrote a Scream 7 script, which I read out loud, about the end of the Carpenter sisters storyline. And then the sequel to that was called Screams. It was centered around the legacy of Gail Weathers. That's episode 155. And Joey is currently working on the final Scream, which this is a product that is going to examine the relationship, the marriage of Mark and Sydney. Unlike the real Scream 7, this will feature Mark Kincaid as Sydney's husband, and she won't have a teenage daughter. Both of her daughters will be young, so it'll be much different than the real Scream 7 we're going to get. But that is going to be coming to the podcast late summer, early fall, so please tune in for that. I need to thank everybody over at Patreon. Thank you to everybody who subscribes to the Patreon at any and every tier. I'm an independent entity, so any bit of support that comes into the Patreon goes back into the podcast. Joining the Patreon gets you ad-free and early access to every episode, as well as the opportunity to join the community of the show. We have group chats across social media. In particular, Instagram is really the hub of the podcast community. More importantly, joining the Patreon is the vessel in which you would use to come onto the podcast, either in a one-on-one situation with me or a small panel. In addition, there's a guaranteed invite every month to a big group Zoom recording about a Scream topic. An exciting feature of the podcast is the audio commentary episodes. Every Scream fan knows what it was like listening to Wes Craven do the audio commentaries for the original trilogy and Scream 4, with Marianne Maddalena and Kevin Williamson and Patrick Lussier. And what I'm trying to do for my Patreon subscribers is I am going to be performing an audio commentary of a Scream or a Scream-related movie, one per month, every month. And my goal is to try to approach these as I'm doing deep analytical analysis about the characters, about the themes, about just general reaction. So it's something that I'm really proud of and I hope continues to be a cherished part of the podcast. So the commentary is available as a normal podcast episode for anybody to listen to like they would any other podcast, but it will also be available as a video watch along. So everybody, please go over to Patreon, subscribe to Scream with RCS. I would be eternally grateful. So I need to go through and thank everybody over at Patreon who is subscribed as a stab investor or a daddy/mama Ghostface. So the daddy/mama Ghostface of the Patreon are Carrie Tenney, Brett Janovich, Corey Wilson, and Stevie Shears. The stab investors include Allie, Amar Karim, Tamika Jones, David D., Garrison Nichols, Gustavo Mora, Jess Mariano, Joey Nobarini, aka The Vault, Josh Calamari, Josh Carr, Scream Queens podcast, both Josh and Justine, The Horror Project podcast, Justin Weir, Kevin Abner, Mark Vieira, PWO5, aka Philip Douglas, Quentin Harrison, and Sam Levy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers, and joining me this week is my eternal co-host, Amar Karim. Hey, Amar.
Hello, Mr. Showers. How are you?
I'm well. Oh, my gosh. How are you?
Yeah, good. I cannot complain.
Well, so, Amar, welcome to the Season 5 premiere, Part 2. So, listener, you heard Part 1 on Tuesday, and we ranked the characters of Scream 1, 2, and 3, and we talked about them, and we had like a very fun conversation. So today, this is Friday, we are doing the Part 2 to this, so we're doing the characters for 4, 5, and 6. So, I gotta say, Amar, not as fun. I'm just teasing. Not as fun as the original trilogy.
I get what you're saying. I mean, I've had to change at least Scream 4 a few times, but I've got my final one. But no, you know what? I'm sure we'll have fun just talking about them. But yeah, you can't beat the original trilogy. I don't care who you are. You know, whether you're Gen Z or a 90s baby, the original trilogy and the original characters are just superior.
So before we get going in ranking the characters of the remake, requel, and spin-off, as my producer TJ Jones dubbed this in the graphic design this week, and I actually like that characterization, and TJ is going to come on in a couple of weeks and we're going to talk about why Scream 6 is probably better off labeled as a spin-off than symbolizing a franchise. I have a memory to share, since this is still technically the premiere of season 5, which is a nostalgic special day for any podcast. Do you remember? So, in the last episode, we talked about the fact that you were on episode 3 and we talked about the trio and what a journey that's been, right? But so you were one of the first people I recorded with, but you weren't the first. So the first person I ever recorded with was actually my sister. And I just want to give everybody insight into that day that we recorded. So it was actually on Courtney Cox's birthday, June 15th, that Abby and I recorded the very first episode of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. And I was nervous as heck. I don't know why I was so nervous, but I remember pacing. We had a set time and Abby and I were supposed to go downstairs and record the episode for the first time. And Abby had never really been on a podcast before, so it was it was intense. I was sweating. I remember just sitting there whenever we were recording. My legs were sweating so bad. I was nervous. I have actually never listened to that very first episode with me and Abby, but I love that memory of us doing that together. And I remember after we finished, I was on this high, and I hope that I remember that excitement and that adrenaline that I felt whenever Abby and I did that first recording. And I never want to lose that about the podcast, because that to me, when I lose that, then I feel like this is more of a job than it is a passion. And just think the fact that I got to share that with my sister, and then I got to kick off and make all these new friends over the past 5 years is truly something spectacular. And I don't take any of it for granted. And I can't wait to continue on with the next set of Scream movies that will spur even more new friends and even more great discussions. So,
oh, bless you. Well, I've always been an advocate for sibling love. Never lose that. Memories are special, in my opinion. If you can hold on to that, and even if nobody else knows about it, it doesn't matter as long as you've got it. That shows that you were nervous but excited, that whole sweaty legs and stuff, because our first recording for me was just I was so excited but so nervous. And obviously, as I've mentioned a billion times, I had children running in and out, so that was not good.
Well, and the thing about that recording too, I had done dozens and dozens and dozens of podcasts before that, so it was weird that I was nervous, but it was because it was my own show, that I had to kind of define in an episode. But it all worked out, because here we are, people listened and people are still listening. And so, you're not that tired of me yet. So, okay. So I want to announce to everybody that the group Zoom for July is going to be this very fun game that my producer, TJ Jones, established. It's called Smash, Slash, or Dash. I did a TikTok, Instagram video of me doing myself, my preferences of the characters, and based off of Smash, Slash, or Dash, Ghostface Edition. So everybody who is invited to come to the group Zoom, who are all of the Patreons, tier 2 and above. So if you'd like to come and hang out with me and be on the podcast and talk about the Ghostface killers, subscribe to the Patreon and come enjoy the fun. So just to give everybody a preview, Amar is going to demonstrate. So Amar, you ready to kick us off?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay, so Smash, Slash, or Dash, Ghostface Edition, Charlie Walker.
Dash. Listen. I know he has fans, and I know he's great, and he's technically a good Ghostface, but I've just never been a fan. Throw him away. I've got to be true to myself. I tried with Charlie Walker. I really have. I look back and I watch his scenes, and I'm like, okay, no, he's not good.
Okay. All right, Quinn.
Slash. Because I like the fact that she's the best of the three. Put it that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Stu.
Smash. He's iconic. Doesn't matter what we think about Stu. He's just such a great character, and he brings so much to the table. So yeah, he's definitely a smash.
Roman.
Smash. Yeah, fantastic character. Not the best in my opinion, and I know you think he the other way, but he's great. He's a reason that Scream exists, really. Still.
Yep. Jill Roberts.
Smash. I will never understand the haters at all. I just don't get it. I think Emma Roberts does a fantastic performance, and I think if you look at the motive, it's the most inventive, really.
Detective Bailey.
Oh my God, get rid of him. He's a dash. I can't with that character. He's just yeah, terrible.
All right. Amber.
Slash. I think that she's okay. I think people give her too much credit. Yeah, she's just okay.
Did you see it, Nora?
No, honestly, it's on my list because there's an actress that's in a film I saw the other day, Until Dawn, and I thought that she was in that, and I thought, oh, I like her, and I realized it's what's her name, Mikey Madsen or whatever she's called, and I've heard very good things about it.
I don't love it. I think it's just okay. I think so it won 5 Oscars. She won Best Actress over Demi Moore.
Do you think she
And-
deserved the Best Actress?
I'm going to be real honest. I think she's great in the movie, but no, I don't think she should have won. Billy Loomis.
Smash. The OG, literally the only killer I was actually afraid of. You know, when he'd look at you, you'd be like, yeah, he could. Even before he was revealed, I was like, yeah, this guy is intense. So I think he's fantastic.
Mickey.
Smash. If you'd have asked me this about 5 years ago, I'd have said, you know, Slash. But no, Mickey is great. I really enjoy Mickey's performance. He is psychotic, but he just brings far more to the film, to the scenes than any of the killers after part 4. So
Ethan
Landry. Oh no, get rid of him. You know what is it? Dash. That's it. Yeah, dash him away.
And last but not least, Nancy Loomis.
Smash. Yeah. You know, again, the first time I ever saw Scream back in '98, it's just like, nah, this is over the top theatrical, but that's what I love about her. And she has a really good reason for doing it. So yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, Amar, you ready to rank some characters with me?
Let's do this shit. Let's do this. I've got my sheet up and I've got my characters ready.
Okay, so everybody, the characters for Scream 4 that we are going to be ranking are Sidney Prescott, Gail Weathers, Dewey Riley, Jill Roberts, Judy Hicks, Rebecca Walters, Kirby Reed, Officer Perkins, Officer Haas, Charlie Walker, Kate Roberts, Olivia Morris, Trevor Shelton, Robbie Mercer, Marnie Cooper, Jenny Randall, and then Anna Paquin, Kristen Bell, Shanae Grimes, and Lucy Hale, aka Rachel, Chloe, Trudy, and Sherry. So, oh my gosh, there are so many characters in Scream 4. Amar, why don't you kick us off with your ranking?
Okay, so here we go. Number 1 to 20. So number 1, I have Sidney Prescott.
Okay.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. Number 2, I have Gail Weathers. Number 3, Dewey Riley. Number 4, Kirby Reed. Number 5, Jill Roberts. Number 6, Judy Hicks. Number 7, Rebecca Walters. Robbie Mercer at 8. Surprise, surprise, Charlie Walker at 9. I know, we'll talk about that later. Olivia Morris at 10. Trevor Shelton at 11. Then I have Lucy Hale's Sherry at 12. Shanae Grimes Trudy at 13. Kristen Bell's Chloe at 14. Jenny Randall at 15. Marnie Cooper 16. Officer Perkins. Anna Paquin. Kate Roberts at 19. And Officer Hoss at 20.
Okay, wow. So you really don't like Anna Paquin, my God.
Yeah, I know. I really don't. And I love her as an actress. I've seen True Blood. I've seen the X-Men films. I think she's great. It's just one of the most, when she got stabbed, I was like, yeah, good for you. Good for you, Kristen Bell. Show her. Because she just complains and moans, and it's just like, you do not want to be sat with a person who just complains about everything that you're watching. So I didn't like her at all.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So mine is different, and I've actually had a big change with mine. Recently, and I feel guilty about this, but it is what it is. Okay, get ready for this. Number 1, Jill Roberts.
Really?
Over Gail Weathers, I know. Okay, let's get serious. I gotta talk in my serious voice. Okay, number 1, Jill Roberts. Number 2, Gail Weathers. Number 3, Sidney Prescott. Number 4, Kirby Reed. Number 5, Judy Hicks. Number 6, Rebecca. Number 7, Robbie. Number 8, Lucy Hale, aka Sherry. Number 9, Kristen Bell, aka Chloe. Number 10, Charlie Walker. Number 11, Dewey Riley. Number 12, I know. Number 12, Shanae Grimes, aka Trudy. Number 13, Anna Paquin, aka Rachel. Number 14, Trevor Shelton. Number 15, Jenny Randall. Number 16, Olivia Morris. 17, Officer Perkins. Kate Roberts. Officer Haas. And number 20 is Marnie Cooper. Oh my God.
Right. Okay. This is a shocker. I mean, why have you got some of these characters in those positions? Well, we're going to find out now, aren't we?
Well, so you are consistent, and I'll be interested to see when we go on to Scream 5 if Sidney goes 5 for 5 for you in terms of being the number 1 character, just because. So you have Sidney, Gail, and Dewey up front. I have Jill, Gail, and Sidney, and then I have Dewey way at number 11, and you have Jill at number 5. So let's just talk about the trio and the killer, because here's my thing. I see Scream 4, especially when you add in the deleted scenes, I see Scream 4 as kind of Jill's movie. Even though Sidney is the main character, she has the most screen time. She ekes out over Emma Roberts. Jill, to me, this is her remake. You know, she's co-lead with Sidney, but she's really the driving force of the movie. She's what's legendary about the movie. Like the finale in particular, you know, is the reason why people talk about Scream 4. with such high regard that they do. Like I imagine like if let's just say Scream 4 had a very basic milquetoast finale like Scream 5 did, with Amber and Richie, like just two very vanilla killers. Given the movie that came before, I don't think Scream 4 would be as popular. I think that like the finale is what really sells the movie and hits hard the punch, not only with Jill and what she stands for, but the personality and the motive and the connection to Sydney and the screen time. I mean, Jill kind of just has it all for me. And like the trio is weird in Scream 4 because like they are all important. Sydney, she's kind of like this statue in the middle of the movie that everyone is kind of around. And she stands for something and she's symbolic. I love that. She's a little bit less urgent than she is in the first three movies. It makes her go a little bit lower for me. But she's still really wonderful and beautifully written and beautifully acted by Nev. And for me, I've always been a Gail Weathers truther about Scream 4. I think Gail is like, for me, Courtney Cox is the MVP of the movie. Maybe Emma Roberts is now, I don't know. But like, the energy that Courtney put into that character in that role has always inspired me from the first time I saw Scream 4. And she's always stood out as the thing about Scream 4 that I just adore. And just to kind of hit Dewey real quick, the reason I have him so low is, I love this scene of him with Sydney on the couch, of course, and I like a couple of other moments. Dewey, for me, just doesn't really hit it in Scream 4. Like, I feel like I don't really know who he is in Scream 4 because they took out all of his scenes. So if this were the extended cut, I would probably have him much higher, probably like, number 7. But I just feel like this is a really weak outing for Dewey. Like, I just feel like he's not really that well defined, even as the sheriff. And he's just not as memorable as these women are. Amar, what are your thoughts?
See, what I've come to notice between you and I, especially with this episode that we did last week, is how different we view these characters, or what differences we have that brings out these characters for us. So the reason I have what I mean by that is the reason I have Sidney Prescott so high up is because it's her character and how you said that she's not urgent, but what I love is that in the first 3 films, she still runs away from the killer. If you want to talk about character development, she doesn't want to be there. She really doesn't want to be in Woodsboro. She doesn't want, and when she's like, shit, I need to get out, but she can't get out. But when you look at Olivia Morris's death, what does she do? The old Sydney would never have run into the jaws of death themselves, So for me, that's like, wow, her development is so fantastic. She's literally becoming that character that's like, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm literally, and I get it. She's not urgent. And that's just because, in my opinion, I see Sydney as matured. She's calm, she's collected, she's been through this before, and still she cares about everyone. Literally, if she didn't, she wouldn't even be there trying to rescue her cousin. So all the way through that film, all I see is a grown character that is there, and she's almost like a superwoman. That's why I had to put her at the top. And I moved away the performances from the actors, and I thought, this Sidney Prescott on paper, what do I like about it? And there was just no other character for me that could top her. And even at the end, she still manages to, rescue everybody. She still even though she's actually been cut up, she's bruised, and it just goes to show that she really has become the fighter we all knew that she was. I mean, we see that in Scream 3 anyway. And I love the fact that when she sees Gail, she hugs her, the smile, the genuine, she's a very genuine character, and I love that about Sidney Prescott. And I think the development from 1 to 2 to 3 and then to this is a natural progression.
Well, so can I just say, like, I actually agree with every single thing you just said. It's just hard for me because Jill is so larger than life, and I'm especially moved by Gail Weathers in Scream 4. So that's why I agree with everything that you said. It's just really hard for me to put Sydney over those two.
Yeah, and the reason I have Gail so high is because of how fantastic she is. And technically, I get why you say that she's MVP, and she's got her spunk back. She's funny. She hasn't lost it. She says that line herself, and that's what we see. The reason I have Dewey so high up is because I get what you're saying about his character, but if you look, he again has progressed so nicely. Yeah, on paper, he's not as memorable as everybody else, but it's him as a person. And the scene that made me put him up there was the one with Sydney, because you realize he is her big brother, technically, even though he actually isn't by blood. And I like that, and he still cared. And I love the dynamic between Judy, him, and Gail, because it goes to show when a man is truly in love with his woman, he kind of has that fear of her because he loves her. And I love the fact that he is trying to organize everything and juggle everything around, even though he's a sheriff, and he's never been sheriff material. But the fact that he's still trying. Yeah, he's a bit clumsy. That's just Dewey for you. But that's why I have him at 3.
Well, you know what? I'm going to change, okay? You know what? I'm going to put Dewey at 7. So he's going, so my ranking will go Jill, Gail, Sydney, Kirby, Judy, Rebecca, Dewey. So I'm, you convinced me. And like, if I'm thinking about this in terms of like the extended version of Scream 4 with all the deleted scenes, he would be higher up.
Yeah.
So I'll give him that. What are your thoughts on Jill? You have her pretty low. Is this because like, oh my God, she's evil?
No, not at all. I mean, up until the finale, I find that Jill is pretty vanilla. And in terms of who is a show stealer, scene stealer between her and Kirby, it's Kirby. And I can't say that, yeah, the finale is fantastic, and that's why she's quite high up in terms of the 20 characters. But on paper, if you were reading that as a book, you'd only start appreciating Jill towards the end. And even then, yeah, she is evil, you're right. So morally, she can't be so high. I get why you've put her there, and I get why people would choose her. But for me, it's just like, she's almost not final, and she's supposed to be this new final girl. That's what they're trying to build her up to be. And then, wow, surprise, surprise, no, I'm not. I'm the killer. Until that point, there's nothing to her except just, oh, she got cheated on, and I'm just, poor me, and why is he calling me, and all of that crap. So, and then when she reveals herself as Ghostface, that's when you think, okay, this is a very, very interesting, smart, dark character. But I just couldn't put her above Kirby, because Kirby, for me, is just spunky. She's comedic. She knows, and she's feisty, so that's why I've at one point I had Jill at 4 and Kirby below her, but I had to swap them around.
Well, so I'll just address Kirby too. Like I love Kirby for everything that you said. Like she is the breath of fresh air, and Hayden she's such a dynamic performer, and Kirby as a person is an interesting like human being in terms of like in the way she expresses herself. So I have her at number 4. But for me, the one thing that why I can't put her higher is just because of the lack of empathy she has sometimes for Olivia being dead. So we both have Judy Hicks pretty high. I love Judy, and I actually, I feel like Scream 5, and when you look at the Judys side by side, they wasted her so much. They gave her a great call and stuff in Scream 5, but like Judy has so much personality and so much definition in Scream 4, and I love her dynamic with Sydney. I love her dynamic with Dewey and Gail. Like she's very, very memorable. Like you remember Judy Hicks, you remember the comedy, you remember how much of a goody two shoes she is, you remember how annoying she is, and that is what a great character is made of.
Yeah, 100%. She's almost like the Jennifer Jolie of Scream 3 in fact that she is annoying, but at the same time she is trying to be good, and the arguments that she has with Gail are just so memorable, and you can see that she clearly looks up to Dewey. There's almost she probably does fancy him, or she envies him or whatever. So I've always liked Judy Hicks, and there's just something about every scene that she's in is quite funny.
So Rebecca is again pretty high for us. These are the characters that are kind of standing out from the stab cast and the opening girls and like the other supporting roles. I love Rebecca Walters. She is a horrible person, but she's so full of life, and she's interesting. She's fun. Every time she's on screen, like I'm interested. I sit up. Like I know I'm in for a good time. I know I'm going to be entertained by her. So I'm a big Rebecca Walters fan.
I'm not a massive fan of Rebecca Walters, but when I looked in comparison to the other characters, and again, it comes down to the fact that she's not a nice person. She is selfish. She's thinking about money. She's thinking about press. She's thinking about popularity and all of that stuff. But when you actually scrutinize a character herself, she is entertaining. She's not evil. She's just, in that showbiz world, almost like what Gail was, but not as crazy as that. Well, Gail wasn't as crazy as this, but she's just, it's like when she's walking, there's a spring in her step. And I think she brings that to the screen. And forget the actress, who's fantastic. The character herself is just, even when she's mumbling to herself in the lift, and when Sydney is really angry with her and stuff, and little things like that, and it makes me chuckle. And if a character is a terrible person but can make me chuckle, and there's something there, so that's why I've put her quite high up. But on paper, I would never like a person like that.
It looks like we both have Robbie over Charlie. I think that sounds right. I think I'm higher on both of these characters than you are. But, for me, despite the final line of Robbie, I actually like Robbie. Like, I think we spend a lot of time with him, and I get the sense of who he is as a person through the webcasting, but also just through his personality. And, he feels like a human being to me. So I've always liked Robbie a little bit more than everybody else. And Charlie, I think there's a lot of interesting interesting things that you could think about when it comes to Charlie Walker that people take for granted. So I just want to give those two a little shout out. What about you?
Yeah, same reasons. Same reasons. I mean, obviously, everyone knows that I'm not a Charlie Walker fan, but I couldn't put him lower than the characters that come after him just because some of them don't have enough screen time, some of them are not developed enough. Yeah, he's annoying, but at least he's a fleshed out character. We know why he's doing what he's doing. We understand towards the end, what his motives are and why he's there. So I had to put him quite high up in comparison to the rest, but I've always preferred Robbie just because, like you said, he is more human.
All right, so let's hit like the rest of like the supporting cast of 4, and then like this like the opening girls, because there's so many people to talk about here. So okay, so let's see. Trevor, I actually like Trevor more, and not just because I think he's super hot. I just think that he's not a good person either, but he is interesting enough to me, and I like the fact that he's portrayed as the bad guy, the guy you can't trust, and then he ends up being innocent of like the ultimate crime of being the killer, even if he is a dick. And I like him pleading to Jill to save his life. So let me see. So there's Trevor, there's Olivia Morris. Olivia, she's fine. I think that there's some personality there that works in terms of like comparing her to like maybe like the 5 and 6 characters, but like even here, like compared to the Wes Craven characters, she's pretty forgettable. Officer Perkins is Anthony, funny, but he's whatever. Officer Haas, like again, talk about a handsome man, Adam Brody. Oh my God, I would smash all day. But there's really nothing to this guy, and it's such a wasted opportunity in my opinion. And when it comes to Kate Roberts, you want to talk about waste of opportunity. So disappointing that Maureen Prescott's sister was not given more to do or more depth, and she was kind of reduced to kind of a goofiness. So she is pretty low for me. So Amar, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly what you said for most of those. I mean, I have Officer Perkins at 17, and then Kate at 19, and Officer Hoss at 20, for the exact same reasons that you have. Officer Perkins is slightly funnier, so he comes up just above Anna Paquin's character, but you stole the words right out of my mouth. How have they got Maureen Prescott's sister in there and she's reduced to nothing, just goofiness? I mean, she mentions about her wounds or her scars, and they could have expanded on that a little bit and given the character a bit more depth. And Officer Hoss, I mean, I think Adam Brody's fantastic. I remember watching him, I think was it in the OC, and there's nothing to his character. He's literally just pointless. So, but Olivia Morris, I'm surprised that you have her. So, I mean, I get that she is relatively forgettable, but at least she has screen time. You could get to understand what kind of character she is, and she has, time in the car at the beginning. The scene at the fountain, I get why it was taken out, but if that was left in, you'd get to understand. Just she'd have got a few more lines, and I like that about her. But I couldn't put her lower just because she was one of the main cast.
Okay, I'm changing my mind because you sold me. She is great in the fountain scene. So I'm going to switch like Jenny and Olivia. So Olivia can be 15 and Jenny Randall will be 16. So let's talk about these opening girls because there are so many of them, okay? Lucy Hale and Shanae Grimes. Lucy Hale, to me, she matches the Scream universe so well. And like also just like there's a lot of like curated personality for like teenagers of that time. Like she's the smart one, she's interesting, but also Shanae Grimes, like she's fun and kind of ditzy, but not in a dumb way where I don't respect her, but just like in a fun way. So I like them. What about you?
Yeah, they're my favorite opening of the 3 openings. I love both those characters. I had never heard of Shanae Grimes up until I saw that opening scene. I didn't know who she was, and when I look back at it, the dynamic between them two is so fun and so cute and so innocent. And like you said, it's chalk and cheese. Lucy Hale is a slightly brutal one of the two, and Shanae Grimes is a slightly innocent one, but they're fantastic. I think they're both great characters, and they could have been even better if they were in the real Scream world,
Yeah, like, and I think that they're both like very much like, if you want to talk about Kevin Williamson's writing, like look at that is like a quintessentially Kevin Williamson written scene. So okay, next, Kristen Bell and Anna Paquin. Kristen Bell, I know like there's literally nothing to this character other than the fact that like what Kristen Bell is playing her, and she gets to be kind of like this like foreshadowing of Jill with a female killer. But like I love the twist. I love that Kristen Bell is just kind of quiet, and then she gets to go in for the punch at the end. I think it's so effective, so awesome, and I wish that honestly we had more of it. And Anna Paquin, like yes, I get what you said. She's annoying and whiny, but the chemistry with them makes me like her more.
Okay, I mean, I've put Chloe high up, and I think she's probably the only character of all the 6 film characters that we've ranked that is up there, probably because of who's playing her.
Yeah.
Because I do think that Kristen Bell it's just the way that she does her dialogue delivery prior to stabbing her and even afterwards. And I know we're not talking about the acting here, but that has elevated her character slightly for me over like Jenny and Marnie, who have far more screen time. But it probably is a twist. It's quite interesting and it comes out of nowhere. So that's probably why I've ranked her quite high.
And I was actually surprised that I put Jenny Randall so high. But I guess like the fact that like she gets that phone call in the real world at the end of the opening has made me warm up to her in a way. I kind of like the sass. So I've never liked Marnie Cooper. Marnie Cooper to me is like kind of like one of the worst Scream characters of all time. Before Scream 5 and 6, I used to rag on her all the time. Like she almost is like the most cliched character of the franchise in terms of being like that dumb blonde girl.
You see, I've always liked, I've forgotten her name now, the actress that played.
Britt Robertson.
That's it, Britt Robertson. So I had to push that to the side because I was going to put her above Jenny Randall. And I think that's because of the extended cut. But Jenny Randall, even though she's a worse character, has far more to do. She's still stupid. You know, I mean, who runs away from a killer and then switches on the light in the room that you're hiding in, right? But anyway, so yeah, Marnie Cooper is, I don't know, there's something cute and innocent about it. I get what you're saying, the dumb blonde that's kind of 80s, but I like that. But she's just not given anything to do in the cut that we get, so it's just boring, you know. But even then, I still put her above the likes of Officer Perkins and Officer Horse and Roberts because those characters have more screen time and to me they're less entertaining, and I know that's almost like contradicting myself, but yeah, maybe it is the Britt Robertson of it all, and the extended cut should have been left in because it gives her more to do, but we don't get that.
Okay, well, I agree with you. If it was the extended cut, this would be different. But you know, the opening of Scream 4 is truly weak in my opinion, and I think Marnie is like the worst example of like the reshot footage. Like they really just take anything possibly good about her and throw it out. So okay, let's move on now to Scream 5. Okay, I'm interested because I don't know what you're going to say here at all.
Okay.
Right. So the contenders here are Sidney Prescott, Gale Weathers, Dewey Riley, Sam Carpenter, Tara Carpenter, Richie Kirsch, Amber Freeman, Wes Hicks, Judy Hicks, Mindy Meeks Martin, Chad Meeks Martin, Martha Meeks Martin, Liv McKenzie, Billy Loomis, and Vince Schneider. So what's your ranking, Amar?
Okay, you ready for this one, Ryan?
Uh-huh.
Here we go. Number 1, Gale Weathers.
Ooh. Okay.
Number 2, Sam Carpenter.
Okay.
Number 3, Dewey Riley.
Okay.
Number 4, Tara Carpenter. Number 5, Sidney Prescott. Number 6, Mindy Meeks Martin. Richie Kirsch at 7. Judy Hicks at 8. Amber Freeman 9. Chad at 10. Wes 11. Billy Loomis at 12. Liv 13. Vince 14. And Martha right at the bottom at 15.
Wow. Okay. So let's get in here. So mine. Okay. Again, hard, but here we go. Number 1, Gale Weathers. So we have the same number 1 for the first time in a long time. Okay, so number 1, Gale Weathers. Number 2, Dewey Riley. Number 3, Sam Carpenter. Number 4, Sidney Prescott. Number 5, Mindy Meeks Martin. Number 6, Tara Carpenter. Number 7, Wes Hicks. Number 8, Amber Freeman. Number 9, Judy Hicks. Number 10, Chad Meeks. Number 11, Richie Kirsch. Number 12, Billy Loomis. Number 13, Vince Schneider. Number 14, Martha Meeks. And number 15, Liv McKenzie. I hate Liv. Oh
yeah,
my God.
I'm trying to figure out who do you hate more, Marnie or Liv?
I despise Liv. You know, Marnie is like is a Charles Dickens character compared to Liv. Liv is she is like, I can't believe Radio Silence allowed this. And then like I feel like Liv almost like was like the warning sign, like was the red flag before Scream 6 came and we got those characters in Scream 6. So anyways, so this is interesting. So Gale, we both have Gale at number 1. I have Dewey at 2. You have Dewey at 3, and then we have Sam at similar places. You have her at 2. I have her at 3. So, oh my gosh, Amar. And then we both have Sidney. I have Sidney at 4. You have her at 5. So that's interesting. This is the first time Sidney Prescott has been higher for me than you. So interesting. So let's dig in. Gale Weathers. I think I love that we both have her at number 1 here because she truly is the MVP. I know that I said this about Scream 4, but like, you know, in terms of just writing, I think that they do such a beautiful job at getting Gale's essence and the evolution from 1 to 4, and don't make her unlikable and like, you know, a villain again, you know, and flatten her. They bring so much dimension to her in addition to giving her this arc of, you know, reuniting with Dewey, losing him, and then getting to avenge his death and kind of ending in a different place than she was before. So I just think that Gale is elite here. I think she's the best.
The word you used was elite and I'd have to say that's perfect. And I love that if you compare all 5 films, Gail's arc is so consistent. It's exactly who she would be and how she got there. It's just everything about Gail and the fact that she does break down, and when and the scene between her and Dewey goes to show how human she really is, especially when he breaks down and he calls himself a coward and the way she reacts. And I'm not talking about performance, I'm just talking about the characters themselves. There's nothing more I can add to that because you've kind of covered it all. Gail is just so good and so well written, so fleshed out, so human, but she still has that reporter side to her. She's got that because that's who she is, and she was still ambitious, and that's why they went to New York. So I like the story that they've given her, and I don't think they could have written her any better in this film.
It's all about execution, and Gail is perfectly executed. And I just hope that they have that same gravitas when it comes to Scream 7. So let's talk about Dewey next. Like Dewey, he is a very dark presence here. I think that he's given so much to do in terms of like the backstory, what he's coping with, moving throughout the story with like the new characters, the old characters, and just having an arc to change and kind of grow and become something different and kind of redeem himself for how he feels he acted in the past.
Yeah.
So I think that Dewey is just so beautiful here.
Yeah. Everything you've said, and I was when I was watching it recently, and I was looking at the things he says, how he says them, the words he uses, and the fact that he is one of those characters again that will never change because he is helping people that he doesn't really know, and ultimately gets him killed. And obviously he should never stepped off that elevator. But if you think about it, that is probably what Dewey would have done, because he is sick of these Ghostface turning up. He's the fact that he's no longer the sheriff and he feels like he's useless. And I think the psychology of it all as well plays into why he got off that elevator. Because he feels like he's not man enough, he's not masculine enough, whatever. So he needs to prove this, not to the world, to himself, and he almost wins. And he remembers always in the head. So it's a nice callback to Scream 3 as well. But I felt very, very emotionally linked to Dewey more than I have in any of the 4 films before that. Before that, he was goofy and he was a bit silly and this and that, and he was, the butt of everybody's joke. But here, he's really fleshed out, really in it, like you said, in a dark place, and I love that about him.
Well, and the thing is, there are people who would say that, that would rank Dewey lower here because he dies and because of putting him in a bad place. But I think that it's good. I think that we get a different side of Dewey and so much heart of Dewey. Like that scene of Dewey and Gail crying. Like I feel like he is such an interestingly written character here, even if there are debates about him overall.
No, I disagree, because when a character like that is in love with a woman or his wife and they're no longer a wife, and that's who he would be. Because he feels guilty, he's still in love with her. That's his one true love. And generally, I've found in life that most guys, when they're in love with someone, doesn't matter what happens, they never get over them, or it could take a lifetime. And it shows. It shows that. And what's sad about it is that when he has her photo on his screen, in his phone, in the apartment, and he's watching her as well. So it goes to show that he's still in that dark place, but he can't get over her. And I think it's very human of him. So I love everything they did with Dewey in this film, and I don't understand why people would put him so low. And even if the fact that he dies doesn't mean that he's not a great character. I mean, it's just unfortunate that he's not in the finale. But I mean, I remember reading recently that he wasn't happy that he was killed off, but I think stakes needed to be, high.
Okay, so we both have Sam pretty high. And she's very controversial in Scream 5. I mean, she's controversial in both movies for different reasons. And I mean, I guess Melissa and Sam have never not been controversial. They've never been a consensus. But like for me with Sam and Scream 5, despite Melissa's inconsistent performance at times, I've always liked Sam in Scream 5. I find her so empathetic. I find myself connecting to her, and her struggle as somebody who is kind of otherized, someone who is like, made to feel a certain way based off of different choices that they've made. I love this idea of like, Sam struggling to cope with this identity that she has, this like reckoning of like who her father was, and then deciding to use that for good in the finale. Like to me, that is where she should have been. That was her track, and I do love the fact that she loves her sister so much. So Sam is pretty high.
Yeah, and I've put her quite high up. I mean, when we first started talking about Scream 5, when it first came out, I always thought that Tara was a better character, and maybe because it was the consistency of the performance. So removing that, I do like her for exactly what you said, and I like the fact that she's a final girl that doesn't just sit back and run, and she actually charges forward and she comes to rescue her sister, and she knows, and she, like you said, it's the struggles, it's the mental problem that she has. I mean, she's seeing her dead father, first of all. That's the first thing. And the fact that she's come back. She obviously doesn't want to be there, and she's feisty. She will protect her sister. And, you know, everything about her screams out this positive character despite the turmoil in her head. So I had to rank her quite high up.
Yeah. So you mentioned Tara. I put her at 7 and you have her at 4. And I do prefer this version of Tara compared to the other. You know, for me though, it's hard whenever she is so great in the opening, and like she the first 2 scenes of her at the hospital are so great, but then after that she really does trail back for me. And I just kind of, if I'm looking at the character itself and not Jenna Ortega's performance, like this is my truth.
You see, I agree with everything you said about the opening and the first few scenes, but I don't think that takes away from her character that she isn't in it a lot at the end. It's just that she doesn't have much to do because of everybody else doing stuff, but her character is still quite consistent. Think about it, she is feisty like her sister. You know, she has this wonderful flirtatious opening, she fights back, she argues with her sister, but then she realizes that, you know, the sister's here to save me. It's not Tara's fault that she's kind of crippled, right? So she can't really do anything. But as a character, I found that she was perfectly rounded. I liked where she was going, and at the end, you know, she still comes back and kicks some ass. So I had to rank her quite high up for that reason.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that there's some truth to all this. Like, I like that she's defined by like this, like kind of like artsy fartsy personality. Like, ooh, you know, I like these edgy movies that aren't so dumb. I think that's an interesting character to have, you know, and I do like the sibling connection that she and Sam have. It's just for me, you know, I think my issues with Tara come out more in Scream 6, but so I like her. I'm thumbs up on her in Scream 5, but I don't think she's as deep as Sam. So okay, Sydney. So you have her ranked 5. I have her 4. This is pretty low for our girl who, you know, she was number 1 for you for 4 movies. So Amar, what's up?
It's probably the fact that she isn't given a lot to do. And I know I've kind of just backtracked with Tara saying that she, just because she's not in the final army, that, you know, you can't say she's a great character. I mean, Sidney Prescott is a fantastic character. But I just find that with Sydney, what I find is that she's here and she's this big hero, but she doesn't really get to determine anything. I think Sam overshadows her, and I felt betrayed by that because I know it's Sam's story. But maybe this is because everything that we see in the trailer is in the film, and therefore it betrays Sydney. But there's just something about Sydney Prescott that I just feel like she should have been given a lot more to do. Because when she's there, she's great. Again, if you think about it, she goes into the house to rescue people that she doesn't even know. You know, she's got the gun. She's sassy with Ghostface. She literally hangs up on him, and it's just, she's never done that before. So in theory, she should be higher. But maybe it is, and I'm betraying myself, but maybe it is a screen time factor of it all.
Well, no, it's not, because, like, you know, it's hard for me. Like, it's sad that I have Gail and Dewey up top and not Sydney. Like, I've always struggled with Sydney in Scream 5 because the trailer let up such high expectations. And then we go into Scream 5, and in my opinion, she doesn't even get a big moment. Like, what moment really defines Sydney Prescott in that movie? But like, it would have to be the walk through the house, you know, where it's a big moment that's just hers and no one else's. Like, you could also say, like, her final conversation with Sam, sure. But, you know, Sydney is like, whenever she's in Scream 5, she's supporting Sam or she's supporting Gail, you know, and she just doesn't get like a big moment to be like, ta-da, I'm here. And like, that's a problem for me. And like, I just, you know, I think that there are things about Sydney that could have been explored better. And it just, in some ways, like, she just doesn't feel, I don't know, like, you know, Nev makes her feel like Sydney, but the writing sometimes doesn't. And I like all this stuff about Sydney and her life and where she's been, where, you know, in terms of like, she's married now, she has kids, and she's, you know, whenever we see her, she's running, she's, you know, aka forward movement, like positive vibes. But like, at the same time, we learn nothing about her, you know, in terms of like the specifics. They kept everything so vague. You know, we don't get to see her, you know, suffer at all about Dewey's death. And that's really hard for me. So as a character, you know, in Scream 5, Sydney's kind of weaker. Yeah,
exactly. Probably that's the right word, weaker than the rest of the films. And I'm the same, you know, maybe it is this, maybe it is that. But I felt a bit betrayed by it because her character could have been so much more. And there was potential to give her more screen time, interact with more people. And the Dewey's death thing was probably the one that did it for me, because, you see her when Randy dies, and you see how she is. But maybe on the plane journey over, she's cried enough. I don't know.
But she's not given, like, shooting doors is not something to do. I mean, there's a part of her that's sassy. Like, I like the, like, this edge to her and this, like, getting down to business aspect. But there's just, that only goes so far. It's fun and it's meme worthy, but a meme is not long lasting great character. And unfortunately, I feel like it was so intentional on the filmmaker's part. They made her look like a badass at times, but, like, the overall arc of this is just like, Sydney, your time is done. You are fading into the background, and I just don't like that. And like, because they do that, we don't get any time with her to even define her as like a proper character. So
yeah.
Anyways, okay, moving on. What do we think of Mindy and Wes? Because you have Wes lower than I do. I have him pretty high, and I have Mindy. Mindy's in my top 5. So people who say I hate Mindy can fuck off, because I actually like her in Scream 5.
She's really good in Scream 5, actually, and I like that. She's almost like the breath of fresh air that we need. Her character, she's just. She like jumps around everywhere, but not in an annoying way. And she kind of makes sense with her recall rules. And, the fact that I understand why some people would find her a bit grating on the nerves, because, she's chasing Amber downstairs. But most of the time, she makes a lot of sense, with everything that she says, and the fact that she is Randy's uncle. He's her uncle. I do find that she's not as empathetic as most people, but I do like the spunk that she has in this.
Like, Mindy goes off the rails with Scream 6, like, in terms of just being too much of a comedic relief, a two-dimensional person. Here, like, I mean, there are little flaws, but overall, I do enjoy her when she's on screen. They give her the time to actually, like, breathe and feel like a human being, like in the finale when she's on the couch. Like, we see more depth to her there, which I like. I love her recall speech. It makes sense, and she's not, like, in Scream 6, it's almost like a performance. Here, she's just kind of like geeking out, which I like. So
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Mindy, other than like I hate the line, but Tara could still die. I hate that. That's just like, that almost had me, had me up in arms. I was like, no, how dare you? I would never say that about one of my friends. Like, Amar, if you were attacked and you were in the hospital, and I would never say, oh yeah, but Amar, he could still die. Like, that is so gross.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was referring to when I said that she needs to have a little bit more of sympathy and empathy towards her friends. But, that said, you said it, where she's geeking out, and that's what a person like that would do. So yeah, I do like her in general.
Whereas in 6, she's almost made into like this caricature. Whereas here, I don't think the caricature is fully formed. I think it's a little bit more in the gray zone, which is good. So I have Wes Hicks pretty high. What about you?
11. I just find that Wes is just nothing to him, really. I mean, he isn't given enough material. He's there in a couple of scenes, but his dialogue and the things he says, he gets overshadowed by everyone around him. And yeah, he has a little scene, the whole Psycho reference and stuff. But even in that, what does he really do except just go around a house, have a little shower, walk out, show up his body, walk around, clean some plates? And even with Ghostface, nothing much to it. It literally turns around, Ghostface is there, and he gets stabbed. Literally. Before that, what is it that he brings to the table? I'd like you to tell me, because I can't see anything there that screams out, this is a great character.
All right, bitch, I'll tell you. So with Wes, and maybe there may be a little bit of Dylan Minnette, and because I do think he's a really good actor.
Thank
and I think
you.
that he brings, besides that, I will say, I think that Wes is somebody, like, the fact that he calls Sam, I think is actually really good. The fact that he puts that forward, the fact that he's actually, I feel like he actually genuinely cares about Tara and the fact that she was hurt. I think that he cares about his mom, and like, I think he loves his mom. I think he is a good kid. And I also like that he's kind of defined as this, like, very, like, socially aware person about technology, and, like, it's a bit two-dimensional, but I think that there's enough there that, like, I'm interested in Wes. I'm interested whenever he's talking, whenever he's in the scene, as opposed to when he's not. When he leaves the movie and it becomes, the friend group gets smaller, it's a little, it doesn't have my interest as much. So I have him pretty high for that reason.
Well, Ryan, I think you've just, previous to this, every time we were saying something, you were like, yeah, you've converted me. I totally didn't even think about that at all. You're right, actually. Wes is a good character, and he does care about, Tara, and he does call Sam. So you're right. Maybe I should put him higher. but I'm not
And
sure.
even like, so like, another thing too is like in that bar scene, it's him versus Amber. And we're supposed to side with Amber because she's kind of calling him a sexist misogynist. Like, oh, you just want to sleep with Tara or whatever. But like, no, it's not. Like, I think that he's actually on the right track of thinking about what's best for her. And whereas Amber, she's trying to deceive everybody. So again, his heart's in the right place and he ends up being right. So then on top of like that, like even like, his conversation with Judy, I think is actually very sweet. So I like him a lot. And I may be a little bit influenced by Dylan Minnette here, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Judy. Like for me, like she was so robbed of different scenes, of different things to do. And she's kind of dumbed down in a way. I mean, like there was a charm to her in Scream 4 that was lost in the writing from 4 to 5, even though she has an amazing phone call, which again, I lay at the feet of Marley Shelton doing an amazing job, not necessarily Judy being defined as a great character. Like I feel like, again, like with Sydney, they were trying so hard to make these older actors not important as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, you said it. I think it is the Marley Shelton effect. I mean, I have her at number 8. I think that's higher than what you have. But for me, again, she, like you said, she was robbed. I just felt that as the sheriff now, they could have given her, I know there's some deleted scenes, but from what we get, there's literally like 2, maybe 3 scenes. I do like the phone call. I think she's got a smart answer for her. And I love that as a mother, she pulled into this trap. But I just think that Judy would have been slightly smarter, maybe. I don't know. Maybe they've pulled on the mother strings here. But again, she should have been given more to do. She should have, I don't know. I feel like, but the thing is, for me, maybe it is Marley Shelton, because when she dies, and this is controversial,
It's so sad.
I was more upset with the way she died than I was with the way Dewey died.
Yeah. Well, because it's shocking, how she was killed in broad daylight in the street, and like Marley's reaction and the situation of her trying to save her son.
Yeah.
Like that's very sad shit.
It is, and the worst thing is neither of them know if the other is, had been killed outside or whatever. She doesn't even know if her son's already dead, and he doesn't even know that she'd just been stabbed outside. So it was quite emotional.
So before I referenced earlier in our conversation about Richie and Amber both being very milquetoast kind of characters. They're both very average, vanilla, not that much depth to them, but they aren't offensive. I don't really I'm not deeply offended by either of them. I like Amber a little bit more just because the conversations with her and Tara, and I feel like I'm really stretching with these characters to make them important and make them relevant. But the conversations that Amber has with Tara and how overprotective she is, like that is at least something that's different and unusual that I can latch on to and be like, ooh, okay, this is interesting. Whereas with Richie, I just don't like that type of guy. I don't like the jokey, oh, I'm such a nice guy kind of attitude. I don't like the annoying like nepo baby quality that Jack Quaid brings to the character. And when you don't have Jack Quaid, what is that character? He's just kind of like a jokey, Gen Z guy. Like that doesn't appeal to me.
You see, the reason I have Richie higher than Amber, and I agree with your assessment of the way Amber is with Tara and stuff, is that I prefer Richie in the finale over Amber. Personally, yeah, I do. I always have done, and I don't even forget Jack Quaid. Let's forget that he's Jack Quaid. I don't mind the nervousness of this character, because what he's trying to do here is he's trying to be oblivious. Oh, I don't know anything about the stab world, and then he watches it and he's like, what the heck are we doing here? So obviously finding out that he is the killer, I think he plays that, the character himself, not the actor, plays up to that quite well. And even in the end, yeah, he's a bit, he complains and moans about poor me, and I'm always moaning about Roman doing that, which is obviously far worse. But in the finale, I just find that Amber goes one step too far to be a bit annoying, whereas Richie he's an idiot, but I just find that the characterization of him is and he's slightly elevated over Amber. I've never really been an Amber fan, to be honest with you, even with the stuff that, and the conversation that she has with Wes in the bar, I was totally against her in that. I was like Team Wes there. Looking back at it, I see why she did it and why she was doing it, but from that point onwards, I was like, yeah, I'm not sure what I think about her. So that's probably why I've put Richie above her, and I just find that she's just, I mean, some people think that whole eek with the knife thing is really funny, and the whole hand sanitizer conversation is funny, but she's Eve, and she killed Dewey. I can never forgive her for that.
Well, so here's the thing about Amber that I don't like. She's very underwritten as a killer. Like, we don't know what her motive specifically is. We know what Richie's motive is. I find Richie not scary in the slightest bit at all. I think that, in fact, like even like the personality that he exudes in the finale, I don't find it fitting of like a scary movie. Like, he's not intimidating to me at all. Like, he's not really effective. But again, I'm not offended by him. I think he's serviceable because I'm focused on the final girls. He's not doing anything egregious. He's just not special or defined in any cool particular way. Whereas Amber gets those moments of like little goofiness that help define her as like kind of like the Stu version of, 2025. But, for me, like we don't know what her motive is. We don't know their connection so well. We don't really know who she is as a killer, and that bothers me. So, but overall, I do think Amber is a bit more interesting as a character than Richie. Richie, I just find him annoying before the finale, and in the finale, I don't find him scary. So he's just kind of a womp womp. Like there's nothing like offensive. It's just like average vanilla person that could have been a Ghostface killer.
None of the radio silence killers are aggressive or scary at all. So I just find that he is a cut above the rest in that department. But I get your point. I completely see where you're coming from.
Okay, so let's hit Chad, Vince, Liv, and Martha. So Chad, I really like here. I think he's not super defined like he is in Scream 6, but he's a sweet guy, and that's pretty much as far as it goes. Like what makes Chad interesting and cool in Scream 5 is the fact that Mason Gooding is playing him. Otherwise, he is a dumb jock trying to get in his girlfriend's pants, and that's it. That's the extent of it. Like, and how am I supposed to root for and think like, oh my god, these characters are so great when that's all they're giving me? So that's Chad for me. Martha is a complete waste. I don't think that she doesn't even feel like the same person that we met in Scream 3. There's no overlap. There's no consistency. There's no continuity. She just feels like any other housewife, and I don't like that. For Liv and Vince, these are very controversial characters. But so Vince, a lot of people have ranked him as the worst character, and I think that you have him below Liv. But for me, Vince is just, I think that like the potential of him is, because we don't spend so much time with him, but we get some clues about him. That makes him a little bit more intriguing to me, and I don't despise him as much as I despise Liv, who we spend time with, and it's not good time. It's just very awkward, uncomfortable, cringe, and just unpleasant. So I just don't like, she doesn't make sense to me. Like this whole thing at the picnic table when she's like, that guy knew Tara? Oh, we worked together last time. Like that goes nowhere. Like that's just emptiness. So on top of just the cringe that follows. So, and like, the switch up that she does, like, I'm withholding from Chad. Now I'm going to give it to him, and now I'm not. And then how hysterical she is with Mindy and how weird she is with Mindy. Like who does that? Who says, am I the killer? Like, are you going to cut me up? Like, come on. Like, what is this?
Well, okay, so that's a lot to go through in 60 seconds. Here we go. So Chad for me, I mean, in fact, I'm going to replace Chad and Wes. I'm going to put Wes above Chad. Chad is just, I don't like Chad in this one. I think he, like you said, he's a dumb jock. He's just trying to sleep with his girlfriend. He thinks he's cool and funny with the Hobbs and Shaw reference, but realistically, he brings nothing to the table. And I've never really, when people said that he's a new Dewey, and I was like, no, he's not. He's not even close to being Dewey. I really don't think that he's a great character at all in this film. Liv and Vince I have at 13 and 14. The only reason, and I get what you've just said, the reason I have Liv above Vince is because Vince does nothing. And to say who he was and how he's related to Stu, that's a very missed opportunity. I get Liv's conversation with Mindy is one of the worst things I've ever seen. And like, when I watch it back, I'm like, do people actually talk like this? Is it just something in America? This is what Brits think, by the way. We watch a film and we're like, is this how all Americans are?
No.
And yeah, exactly. So, Hollywood doesn't do any favors. And when I was, the only reason I've put her higher is because I do feel bad for her. Because at the end of the day, she does care about her boyfriend, and she's not the killer, and suddenly she gets just shot right in the face. So I felt a little bad for her. But up until that point, there's nothing special about her. And unfortunately, Sonia Amar doesn't actually bring a great performance either. So, but I put her above Vince just for that reason, because Vince does nothing, and he's a very talented actor who should have been given more to do. And Martha I have right at the bottom, because that's just not Martha. She's literally a housewife, walks in and degrades him, degrades Dewey. And I'm like, how dare you? What do you mean? How's the wife and you don't look so good? How does she not know if you're living in Woodsboro? So she is wasted, in my opinion. Martha is just a wasted character for me and isn't given enough to do. And
having this conversation has taught me a big lesson about these characters versus the characters in the first 4 movies. Even like the Scream 4 characters, I had so much more to say. Even the Stab 3 characters, I had so much more to say about who they are, what they were about, and like, who they were outside of just like the one sentence description that they would have seen on the casting. You know what I mean? Like even Chad, someone who I deeply love, Scream 6, he is nothing here. Like all of these characters can be reduced to literally one one line, and that's all they are, especially when you take the actors out of it. And that's really depressing.
Well, and this is because we're taking the actors out of it. When we used to speak about these in previous episodes, we always thought, oh yeah, this performance, this dialogue delivery, this nuanced performance, whatever. But underneath Mindy, for me, the top 6 are quite good. Apart from that, realistically, even Judy is betrayed. There's not much in here. So it's a bit sad, actually, when you really scrutinize these characters, like you said.
It's, because even taking the performances out of the original trilogy or even Scream 4, there's still a lot there versus here, they are very shallow and just there's nothing to them. And that's just kind of sad. So, I hope that Scream 7 can kind of reverse course and we can have some deeper characters that aren't just, a buzzword kind of character or just a very generic description of this is the jock that wants to sleep with his girlfriend. This is blah, 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 blah,
Yeah,
So.
I agree.
Okay, so Scream 6, baby. Well, okay, so here's what we're dealing with here. So we have Sam Carpenter, Tara Carpenter, Kirby Reed, Gail Weathers, Mindy Meeks, Chad Meeks, Detective Bailey, Ethan Landry, Quinn Bailey, Dr. Stone, Annika, Jason Carvey, Danny Brackett, Laura Crane, and Billy Loomis. So, Amar, what is your ranking?
Okay, so ranking for Scream 6 is number 1, Sam Carpenter. Number 2, Chad. Number 3, Kirby. Number 4, Tara Carpenter. Number 5, Gail Weathers. Number 6, Danny Brackett. Number 7, Mindy. Quinn at 8. Annika at 9. Detective Bailey at 10. Ethan 11. Billy Loomis at 12. Laura 13. Dr. Stone 14. And Jason Carver at 15.
This was a hard list for me to do.
Really?
Yeah, and ours are very different. And again, I was trying to imagine myself, if I was reading the book of Scream 6, who they were based on their job, based on the personality, based on the spice they brought, and also the consistency of who they are. All right, here we go. Number 1, Gail Weathers. Number 2, Kirby Reed. Number 3, Sam Carpenter. Number 4, Chad Meeks. Number 5, Jason Carvey. And number 6, Quinn Bailey. Number 7, Laura Crane. Number 8, Detective Bailey. Number 9, Annika. Number 10, Mindy Meeks Martin. Number 11, Danny Brackett. Number 12, Tara Carpenter. Number 13, Ethan Landry. Number 14, Billy Loomis. And number 15, Dr. Stone. Oh my God.
What? Yeah.
So I realized when I was making this list that the 2 characters in the opening, they're very poorly written, but they could have been great, and I think actually Jason Carvey being number 5 for me is a shock because he could have been an amazing character if we had a better actor playing him. This was by far the hardest thing to do. And I know I have complained about Gail Weathers for the past 2 years, but for me, I enjoy Scream 6 the most when Gail is on screen. And that is and that's pretty sad. So I don't know. There's a lot to go over here. So let's start with the Carpenters. Since you have Sam first and you have Tara up pretty high.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on them?
Sam Carpenter is just the MVP by far, in my opinion. Let's forget Melissa. Let's just look at the character, look at the growth. And I get that she's struggling with this darkness and she's worried that she's going to become her father, or that's what they're playing on, But ultimately, what I love about her character is that she's feistier than before. She doesn't give a shit. She literally eggs on the killer on the phone. She's like, let's look what happened to the last 2 killers. And even in the end, when we come to the end, she literally doesn't care about who is in front of her. She tells the killers what her man-baby son was like. She doesn't trust everyone. She keeps her friends, close, but doesn't want to reveal everything because she knows she'll be judged. She's got the whole world against her. Everybody is against her. Social media is against her. Her sister is against her. All she's trying to do is protect her sister. Another Ghostface has come up. She's the only resourceful one. She literally runs to try to get those knives when there's that wooden block, So I just feel that she is far better than she was in 5, and I even put her quite high up in 5. I think she proves to be a resourceful final girl. I actually would say that hand-to-hand combat, Sam Carpenter of Scream 6 and Sidney Prescott of Scream 3, I'd probably put Sam as one who would win that hand-to-hand combat because she really doesn't give a shit. And I like that about her, that she hasn't changed. Yes, there's a darkness. Yes, there's that. But in real life, this is who we are. People will go through this turmoil in their head. Am I this person? Am I not? Will I succumb to these desires? Will I become this person? And she's got a lot to live up to. Her mum doesn't talk to her. So I just feel that everything about Sam Carpenter from Scream 5 has been enhanced and, elevated in this. And that's why I put her so high up.
So the reason I actually think this is an instance, if I was looking at the actor plus the character, she would be higher. I think Melissa enhances Sam in Scream 6. versus Sam on the page. For me, she is an inconsistent mess. She is a mess morally. Like we've been talking about, like, do we idolize the killers, to put them high? Like, for instance, I had Jill very high, you didn't. So that makes sense. But like for me, with Sam, I have deep issues with her on a moral level, and there's just no consistency. So on like one level, she's trying to say, "Oh, I'm not my dad. I hate that everyone's judging me." Blah 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 blah. But then on the same, in a second breath, she's going and putting on her father's robe and carrying out this weird revenge fetish and talking about to her therapist how it felt right to be killing people and just putting her hand up to the glass. Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute. There's no consistency there, and the film doesn't try to depict it as like war she's fighting like it was in Scream 5. It's just kind of like Sam is both of these people and we should all just make sense of it. Like, no. And also the thing that bothers me about Sam in Scream 6 is like the film thinks that it's a good thing that Sam is doing this to Detective Bailey at the end, whereas I see it as morally reprehensible. Like the movie is trying to egg us on to say, oh yeah, this is the main character, you go girl. And for me, I don't see it that way. I don't think we should see it that way. I think it's something gross and creepy. And so I just don't think you can be our hero and somebody we love and do this.
You see, but then, okay, I just want to quickly counter argue that one. So, and this is just me, based on what I've seen throughout slasher films for the last 20 years. Whenever a killer, whether it's Michael Myers or a Ghostface or whoever, will brutally attack someone, butcher your friends, cut them up, and you see this happening. And don't forget, she's not a Sidney Prescott. She doesn't have that empathy and that care that Sidney has. I actually think that that's what she would do. And she mentions it as well, you mess with my family and stuff. And I get it. Morally, as people, we wouldn't do that. But then the character that Sam is, there's so many shades to her. And I get what you're saying, that the film doesn't really depict that there is a war going on. But that's how I've interpreted it. I've interpreted it, well, she's like, well, what do I do? I'm definitely not my father. But at the same time, I enjoy it. So it's like, well, okay.
Why you're talking about killing people.
Yeah, but
this isn't going to tea.
No, but it's not killing any random person in the street. It's killing a killer. And I've always thought that in the past, when I've seen Final Girls, just shoot the killer dead. And I'm like, well, do you not want, and maybe this is my dark side, do you not want the killer to suffer the same fate he's been making your friends suffer? I see that side to Sam. When she made Richie suffer, she did it because, well, wait a minute, you've butchered everybody else. Here's a taste of your own medicine. And it was the same thing for Detective Bailey. I don't agree with it, but I understand why she did it. You're not convinced. You're like, yeah.
I'm not. I mean, you make a good argument, but it's still like the execution of Sam as she is written to me doesn't really work. And again, like if anything, Melissa enhances Sam because Melissa brings confidence and suave and like a badass to Sam, right? But like, so, okay. Tara, whenever I was doing this list, the fact that I put her so low was kind of a revelation for me. I just find Tara to be so fucking useless in Scream 6. She's Sam's sidekick, but also like the way that she's written in the party scene is so gross. It's weird. It doesn't make sense. And like on top of all of that, Tara is just fucking boring, and there's no real exploration of her actual trauma and what she's gone through from 5 to 6. And I don't know, it's just like, I just find Tara to be lazily written. And like, if I was looking at the Jenna performance of it all, like she would probably be even lower because I just don't think Jenna brings the zest and like the intensity that she had to Scream 5 here.
You see, I don't know. I don't mind Jenna Ortega in this because there's certain scenes that I think, okay, she's doing quite well here. I get what you're saying about the character. And I just feel that's just the general script in, overall of Scream 6 is just really weak and really poor. I've put Tara high up because I do like how she progresses. Yeah, she's not as well-rounded as she is in 5 because of the trauma and stuff. And I don't like the fact that she, is pushing Sam away. But what they're trying to show is that she's like, well, wait a minute, she's different to Sam. And the fact that, yeah, we went through a lot of crap, so what, leave me alone. And I find that that's just like a spoilt teenager that we will get in this day and age. I've seen so many people like that around me. So I think it is realistic in that sense. So I was quite surprised that you put her so low down. I mean, yeah, she is a bit useless, to be honest. But I don't know, maybe it is a Jenna Ortega of it all. I don't hate her as much or despise her as much or even dislike her. I think she's quite, I mean, put it this way, I put her up above Gale Weathers. So that's saying something, right?
Well, so let's talk about Gale and Kirby because, like, again, like I have criticized Gale Weathers so much in terms of what the writers did to her in Scream 6, and every time that Gale's on screen, I think that it's more interesting and more fun and more alive than when she's not. And the same goes for Kirby. And I don't know, and maybe it is my legacy bias here that's putting them up top, but I don't care. Whenever they're on screen, or if I was reading the book of Scream 6 and they were just flat characters on the page, I'd be like, ooh, Kirby's back. Ooh, Gale is back. Like, so, even though the writers failed them in a lot of respects, I think that, they are parts I look forward to whenever I'm watching Scream 6.
Okay, so with Kirby, she's really grown on me. She's completely different Kirby to Scream 4, and I like that because she's been through her trauma and she's obviously no longer a student. She's in the FBI, etc. So I put her quite high up. With Gale Weathers, I could have even put her low down, but I'll tell you why I didn't, because it is the Courtney Cox effect. When she is on screen, she's good. She's very good. She lightens up every screen and everything, or scene that she's in. But when I scrutinize a character, I feel like it's written by someone that's never read or seen a Gale Weathers before, because she backtracks on everything. I said to you that Scream 1 to 5 is a natural progression. And I was speaking to, my partner when I went to watch it, and I argued this. And she turned around and she goes, no, a leopard never changed its spots. And I went, no, they've betrayed her. Yeah, she's still a reporter, but she goes back on everything she stood for in Scream 4 and Scream 5. The fact that and it's like she's almost the Gale Weathers of Scream 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, how has she gone back? And when Sam and Tara confront her, or when she confronts them outside the police station and she gets punched in the face, it's almost like, well, you deserve that. And she says it to her. The line that really should have cut her deep is when, what would Dewey think of all this? And she's right. How have they gone and taken a character that has magnificently, gone through this journey, and then suddenly they've betrayed everything she stood for? And it's like, well, who are you? I don't recognize you anymore.
And that's completely 100% true. I agree with every single thing you just said. And yet all of the characters in Scream 6 are this bad, in my opinion. That's why I'm like, well, if I have to pick any of these characters who are all these are so, like, all of the characters in Scream 6, I'm sorry, but they are terrible. Like, the writing is so bad. And like, I again, like, if you're reading the book of Scream 6, it's a dumpster fire, and it's like, okay, well, which part of the dumpster fire is at least fun to get through? And it's at least fun to see Gale in her apartment, yelling at the killer. How's that for nostalgia, fucker? And Kirby Reed, coming in and like having her feet up on the table. Like, those are the things that I enjoy, even though there's very little merit to talking about any of these characters. Like, Sam is the only one that you can, but for me, she's so messy. It's useless, So I don't know, but let's talk about the twins here, Chad and Mindy, because Chad, he is the most improved from 5 to 6, but again, is it the Mason Gooding factor? I think it actually is. I think there's a lot of heart to Chad in Scream 6, but 80% of why people like him in Scream 6 is the Mason Gooding of it all, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think, though, of all the characters in Scream 6, apart from Sam, maybe, Chad is the most improved. He's better written than he was in 5. He's a more mature character. He does a lot more. He's feistier. He's, and at the same time, he's the one that's got the heart. He's like the Dewey, I suppose, in that sense. He's, around the table and everything. But maybe it is a Mason Gooding effect. Mindy is terrible. Mindy is even worse than she was in 5. There's no empathy here. I remember the scene with the ladder scene, and I know it's a small thing, but I'm going to say it. You've just been sliced in the arm, and you're acting like you've been gutted. Whereas your girlfriend has been stabbed in the stomach and she's still more composed than you are. And I don't understand what they were going for there. Now, I know that's got nothing to do with the character, and I get being stabbed in the arm is obviously going to be painful. But the way she was acting, it was like her arm was about to fall off. And I was like, they messed that up so bad. And I look back at that scene, I'm like, anybody would have sent Annika first, that you will literally bleed to death. You need to go first. Why am I going first? Little things like that just shows that, is she really, I mean, suppose it's consistent with her character, but the fact that she's been gutted and stabbed up and in the subway, and then she's running down the street, guys, I'm like, it's so inconsistent. Yeah, it is. And I actually agree with you on the speech that she gives outside the university. It's so theatrical that it's off-putting. So,
okay, Amar, you've actually changed my entire ranking here, so I'm just gonna restate my list just based off of just talking about the 6 survivors here. Okay, so number 1, I'm going Chad. Number 2, I guess I'll have to go with Sam.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Number 3, Kirby. No, number 3, Gale Weathers. Number 4, Kirby. Number 5, Jason Carvey. 6, Quinn. 7, Laura. 8, Bailey. 9, Annika. 10, Danny. 11, Mindy. 12, Tara. 13, Ethan. 15 Dr. Stone. So I kind of just changed a lot there, but like, it's hard with Scream 6 because there's so many contradictions and there's so many huge flaws. Like even like, it's hard for me I can't say Sam is the best in Scream 6 whenever with the robe. I just can't.
Okay. Yeah, well, you stick with that, and I get that. And you and I have spoken about this at length. You said it in the chats, and I like that you stick with that because realistically, she should never have put that robe on. It makes no sense. I get that completely. That's the only thing I will say about Sam. That just the stabbing of the detective. I get that why she did it, but why the heck would you put that robe on? What are you trying to do there? Are you saying that I am Billy's daughter or I'm not Billy's daughter? Yeah, what is it that they're trying? And it's just the writing though, isn't it? It's the script itself.
Yeah. Let's talk about the opening because like the opening actually really surprised me here. Again, I think the writing fails Laura Crane, but she's interesting. I like that she's a college professor. I like that she's young and pretty, and I like that she is that she knows about horror movies. And I like that she's kind of a nervous personality. Like there's so much they could have done with that character in the opening that they failed to do. With not only with Samara, but just like with like just the general character of like I'm a professor at the school where the Core 4 goes, and I teach horror movies. Like that is so cool, and they wasted that. So I put her higher, even though she probably doesn't deserve it. And for Jason, he is that. Imagine a great actor making that character really fucking creepy. This would be a home run. But for me, Tony, like again, like if Melissa improves Sam, Tony makes this character so much worse. Having a Ghostface who is revealed in the opening and then going home with him and seeing his stab collection and like, kind of the details we learn about him. We learn that he's gay and like that he really enjoyed killing like, Laura. Like, that is really interesting to me. But again, the casting is awful.
Yeah. I know. I didn't want to say that I put him last because of I've never, good for him that he's doing well in Hollywood or he's in films, but everything I've seen him in, he's not good. He plays Flash Thompson in the Tom Holland Spider-Man films, and it was the worst casting I've ever come across. So when I found out that he was going to be in this, I was like, okay, let's see what you can do. And he's not good. But the reason I put Jason at the bottom is because I get that he's interesting and I get that he's, the fake Ghostface, but it's that whole moral compass, the fact that he stabbed her to death and had, he's just, I suppose all the killers would have done that. We never see what Billy and Stu do behind the scenes, but maybe it's because of who the actor is, but I don't like him. There's nothing about him that I like. And when he gets killed by Ghostface, I'm like, yeah, good for you.
All right, so the three killers here, Quinn, Ethan, and Bailey. So again, Quinn I actually have pretty high. I think that Quinn is a fun character. She's funny. There's a couple of nice beats she has before the reveal and after the reveal. Even if it's not like the best quality, she's interesting and easy to watch. Detective Bailey could have been a great character. Again, had Radio Silence worked with Dermot Mulroney to get the tone right of the performance, but the performance distracts from otherwise an averagely written character. I think like him in the police station, his very first scene with the girls, whenever he's questioning them, I think that's a great scene. And I like the idea of a cop being a Ghostface killer. I think that's really cool. But again, he's higher up for me. He's number 8, but it's ruined by the performance. And Ethan, I can't even talk about. I don't think that we'll ever have a worse Ghostface killer than Ethan Landry. He is gross, disgusting, lame, juvenile, can't even.
Yeah, so I've just realized today that I think Scream 6 is the only film where I've actually based the characters on the performances, maybe. Because I'm looking at it right now and I'm thinking, yeah, I don't like any of these actors. And I like Quinn. And I like the girl that plays Quinn, and I think the one-liners and stuff are pretty cool. And even when she is revealed as Ghostface, because the other two are so bad, she comes across. And again, this is a performance thing, I suppose. I'm trying to put the character. So up until she's Ghostface, I liked her character. She was a little slutty, and she owned it, and she was the one that would give like you said, the beats were correct and good. Bailey was always a very boring character, even as a detective. And again, it's because of the way Dermot probably portrays him. Ethan, I've ranked my Ghostfaces recently, and I put him below Charlie because he's that bad in every sense of the way. He's a crap character. He's weak. He's poor, and the script is so bad. I mean, all the other Ghostfaces from their graves must be turning. They're like, wait a minute, you just got someone to stab Mindy, and then you saved her. It makes no sense, right? Because a Ghostface wouldn't do that. And it's just for the plot, and it's weak writing and stuff. But it's sad because Scream 6 could have been so much. It had the potential to be so much bigger and better, and it was let down by a really, really poor script. And I'm surprised that the directors didn't take a hold and think, okay, this is not right. And like you said, they should have worked with Dermot because Dermot Mulroney is a fantastic actor. I've seen him in many things, and in this, it's awful.
I don't. We're not trying to bag on Scream 6. It's just it's hard to rank the characters when they are all so poorly written. Like there's always a caveat. There's always a this. There's always a that. Like it's so hard. And when you take like the actors out of it, or and then this stuff just comes out. When you look at what's on the page, this is the natural reaction. It's not us being haters. So
No,
anyone out there who's clutching their pearls, grow the hell up.
No, but listen to what we're saying. We're looking at the characters as they're written on paper, and we're trying to remove the performances. And in fact, you said it, that the reason Sam is better for you is because of Melissa's performance. But we want to try to scrutinize these as if they were written on paper. So I agree with everything you said. And then
also, I would love to do this, where we do like the top 5 performances in each movie, because like my list would probably be very different. Like Melissa would probably be number 1. I'm not gonna lie for this, So again, it's just the bottom 5 performances. Man, that would be difficult for Scream 6 because there's so many that are terrible. But okay, so let's hit these last couple. Okay, we have Annika, we have Danny, and we have Dr. Stone. Oh, these are great characters, Amar. They're so great, so great. Oh my God, this is Gen Z, so great.
Yep. Okay, so I put Dr. Stone at the bottom because there's just nothing to him.
Well,
literally.
I'm going to go even a step further. He is a badly written character and a bad person. Like, as a therapist, you never would jump to that conclusion that he draws. Like, Sam didn't even say she was going to kill. She said, I liked it. There's a difference.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember watching that, and I said it to someone. I didn't say exactly that, but I said, but would a therapist react like that? And they're like, I don't think so.
No, legally, I can tell you that's not the case.
Yeah, so, whoever wrote this obviously didn't do a very good job. Annika, you see, Annika, I don't mind. I mean, I've got her at 9 above Ethan and Bailey and Jason and everyone. But at the end of the day, I think her purpose is just to be Mindy's girlfriend and be killed. I mean, I like the fact that actually she steps up in the party scene, and I think that's what showed me that actually her morals are right and she's a good character. She actually cares. But apart from that, there's not enough room there for me to think, yeah, I like her or she's interesting or anything, because she really isn't. But Danny, hear me out. I'm going to contradict myself here. I've got him at 6. Technically, he's a dull character, but I like him because he's there for her. He's understanding, which most guys, people always complain about toxic masculinity and how guys are never understanding enough for women. They just want to get in their pants. Maybe he does, but he still understands exactly what Sam goes through. He isn't forcing her to do anything. If anything, he's sat in his own room, ironing his shirt, having a beer, and he notices Ghostface and he tries to save them. And even at the end, when she says, look, I can't trust you, and he's like, yeah, cool. Don't worry about it. I'm here. That's a nice guy. I understand nice guys always finish last. So if we got to see him in Scream 7, if they did the other version, he probably would have got killed off. But, I like a good person. And he's definitely a good person. He oozes a good person. And is one of them that, like Derek, Sam could have trusted. So, and he begins with a D, so he probably would have died. So, and I like the actor that plays him, Josh Segarra. I think he is I see him in a few things. And I'm going to go ahead. He's a good looking guy. I almost got jealous of him. So,
well, you said like it starts with a D, and I'm just like, oh wow, the gays talking about Josh Segarra starting with a D. Man, Amar,
I didn't mean that, obviously.
Okay, you make some compelling arguments. Like Danny, for instance, I love that first scene with him and Sam. Whenever they're talking in the lobby and they're kissing and like trying to hide it, I think he's actually very charming. And like actually everything you said about him being a good person and being like an understanding boyfriend to her, that is correct. Like you are completely right about that. In fact, I'm changing my ranking again. I'm gonna say it at the end. So okay, Annika, I agree with you. Like the big moment for her is trying to help Tara in the frat party and her big death. That's very emotional. I don't know if the emotions are truly earned. I mean, like kind of sort of, but like where was it earned along this way? I think that the actress Devin Nakota actually does a really good job at making Annika more likable than say Liv. But like again, Annika is Liv in another version of the clothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Dr. Stone is literally just, he's barely a character. And the jump that he does once Sam tells him the truth to how he reacts is awful. So I'm gonna say my new ranking now. Now you really changed my ranking because Scream 6 was really difficult for me to do because there's so little to actually latch onto in terms of the writing and the characters here. So, okay, 1 Chad, 2 Sam, 3 Gail, 4 Kirby, 5 Jason, 6 Quinn, 7 Laura, 8 Danny, 9 Bailey, 10 Annika, 11 Mindy, 12 Tara, Ethan, and then Billy, and then Dr. Stone.
Cool. Cool. And I like what you said. I didn't mention that Danny is charming. And, you need to have a character like that. He doesn't come across as misogynistic, or he's not like toxic or anything. He's just a nice person. And I like to see that in a film, because you need showcase different personalities and characters. And that's why I put him so high up, because I was like, you know what? He's the type of guy that would take a bullet for her. That's what he comes across as.
Well, Amar, thank you so much for helping inform my opinion, changing in real time. This was a fun recording.
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, I was actually sweating, and it's not because of the heat. I'm like, when I was talking about these characters and you were telling me your opinion, I was like, yeah, I get Ryan's, but I'm going to stick with mine here. But you know what? It's so interesting, like 4 and 5, but 6, unfortunately, I didn't realize how many flaws there are in 6 of everything, the way the film is written, the script, and the dialogue and characters as well. So that's a shame.
So I'm going to just say something, I'm not trying to be rude, but from I feel like with each movie, the character quality has gotten kind of worse and worse, from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and then 5 to 6. I really hope that Scream 7 can turn this ship around and give us great character quality that we saw with the first 3 again, because these last 2, talking about them and actually just talking about the characters on the page, really kind of depressing. I'm not going to lie. And I don't want to end on a depressing note, but I want to end on a hopeful note that Kevin Williamson, the writer of the 90s, can write great characters again here and bring them to life.
Yeah. But did he write this one, or was it Guy that wrote Scream 7?
It's complicated, but so from what I understand, Guy wrote the first draft, and Kevin has kind of taken the wheel ever since.
Good. Because don't forget, Guy was co-writer on 5 and 6, so Kevin obviously seen something.
So, and the thing is, unfortunately, we are probably going to have a lot of some traces of 5 and 6 in 7 because of the Guy Busick being involved at all. But I hope that Kevin can at least give all of the characters some depth and some recognition that we saw at least in the Scream 3 and 4 characters, where not all of them are so dense, but at least there's a couple of things about each of them that make them unique, even if they're not great. Unlike these last 2 movies, it really is amazing to me just how much the actors saved Scream 5 in a lot of ways. When you have Dylan Minnette and you have Mikey Madison in those roles, how much it changes those characters,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Amar, thank you so much for this 2-part recording. Part 1 of Scream 1, 2, and 3, and now part 2 of 4, 5, and 6. Amar, thank you so much for being my best friend. And where can they find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Amar Karim, and on Instagram at Amar Ali Karim, ALI in the middle, all one word. And thank you so much, Ryan, for having me. I've always had a blast with you, so thank you again.
So this is fun because I can accurately use this phrase again, which I haven't used since April. Welcome to the Taylor Swift Song of the Week, because in part 1, we did not have a song of the day. We talked about Taylor buying back her masters with our friend Mark Vieira. But everybody, please welcome my good friend and producer, Ashley. Hey, Ash.
Ryan, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm so good to be sitting here doing a song that represents both of these episodes. This is a really cathartic song for me, and I'm really excited to talk about the depths of this song as it relates to Scream and the podcast. Ash, what is the Taylor Swift song of the day?
The Taylor Swift song of the day is Nothing New. This is track 23 off of the re-released version of Red. It is a vault track that we got in 2021. It is featuring the lovely Phoebe Bridgers, and she actually gets a good amount on this song sometimes, and features a big artist will just have a little something, and you really get to hear Phoebe's talent in this. This song was written by Taylor, produced by Aaron Dessner and Taylor Swift, and it's really just about the fears that you go through when things are changing and as you get older. And I feel like it's a song that they do talk about couple specific ages in this song, but I feel like I can relate to it more now than I could a few years ago when I heard it, or I feel like I could be 73 and listen to this song and still be able to relate to it. So,
well, my interpretation of this song has evolved over time. So, as people know, I'm a big Red person, and this is a Red vault track. And my big moment as a Swiftie, my breakthrough moment was the Red Taylor's version release. So this was part of that big moment, and I love a lot. All of the vault tracks on the Red album are amazing, but this one kind of blended in a way to others. I didn't really appreciate it at the time. I thought it was good. I liked it, but I wasn't obsessed with it. I always thought my interpretation of the song was always just this idea of more so about from in a feminist perspective of like, within men, like how they objectify women when they're really young and once they get a certain age, like the Leonardo DiCaprio of it all. I interpreted it was like a take on that. And I think that's a valid interpretation. But recently I've seen Taylor discuss this song and she described how she interprets the song. And it broke me. It broke me as a content creator. I mean, I know I'm not technically an artist, but my podcast is kind of like my art. And it made me like completely, it was like an out of body experience hearing her talk about it. So Ashley, we joked in the Last Kiss segment that people have just heard in the season 4 finale that we were Taylor Swift with Ryan C. Showers and Ashley Summers. And you said, wouldn't it be funny if Taylor Swift were here with us? So everybody, please welcome a very special guest. Let's hear from Taylor herself.
This song called Nothing New, which I wrote when I was 22. And it's really, really special to me because it was the first time I was not a shiny new artist. I was on my 4th album and I felt like, I think this happens to a lot of artists where they have their breakthrough moment and then the moment after that is really hard for them because they're just not getting the same. It's like the first time you walk into a room at a party and everyone's like, oh, Kevin's here! When you have your breakthrough moment, like, Kevin! And then the next time you walk in, they're like, sup?
Yeah.
And then the third time you walk in, they're like, so what do you want to do tomorrow? Do you got and they're just talking. And you're like, but I'm here. And you used to, so I was dealing with that moment in my life.
Right. Thank you, Taylor.
Crazy. That was so good. You said that so well.
That struck me so hard.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's just one of those things where I feel like she's saying that like you become almost like an object, or I don't know. I don't know how I can articulate it better than her, but just like imagining that feeling of people being excited to meet you and like you kind of feel like you're excited to meet them and like you feel like there's like this friendship and you're like, oh wow, that was really fun. And then the next time you're like, they were just busy. And then like the third time it's almost like you're like, wait, was that all a facade? Like, was this all like what was that initial excitement for? Was it to get something out of me? Was it genuine? Where was that coming from? And I just feel like that would be like a really complicated feeling.
Well, also this idea of like feeling like the shiny new toy, and like you can take it to a very like obvious place, like the Leonardo DiCaprio of it all, like this idea of like the way that men are gross about women's age. I think that's a completely valid way to look at it. But for me, the way that Taylor explains it, I got it just as a creative. So I'm going to tell a little bit of a story. So whenever I first started this podcast, my podcast started in 2021 in the lead up to Scream 5. And everybody was so interested and everyone thought it was so cool and so boutique. And how could someone do a Scream podcast? This is so interesting. And I remember I was flooded with attention at first. And specifically like around the release of Scream 5, I feel like I did at least like 20 interviews around that release. And when Scream 6 came around, and like as the podcast went on, people became less interested in the novelty of this guy doing a Scream podcast. And I noticed I got like maybe half of the interview requests I got for Scream 5 for Scream 6. Of course, everything happened with when Melissa was exited. And I get what Taylor's saying here. She's kind of saying like, she's getting better, right, with her albums, or she probably feels like she's doing more as an artist to grow from the first album to Fearless to Speak Now to Red. Look how much she's bending herself and look how much she's improving with her lyrics and her singing and, the different genres she's trying. She's improving so much. It's like, yet at the same time, when you're on your 4th album, people aren't treating you like the young ingenue that they treated you at first, like whenever you were fresh, if that makes sense. Like there's so much excitement when someone's fresh and new, but by the time the 4th album comes out and the 4th album is like the best work she's done, no one's giving her that same level of attention. So it's this weird dynamic where you are getting better at your art, but the short attention span spotlight is not following you. And that really hit me hard in some respects, because I also feel as though like my podcast has gotten better over time. I think that like, season 5 is going to be better than season 4, and season 4 was better than 3, and 3 was better than 2, and 2 was better than 1. Yet I got all this attention at first whenever the show wasn't really what it is today. And it's almost like a mixed match in your head, right? Of like, you weren't at your best, but you got the most attention. There's something weird about that, And not that I'm saying that like I don't get attention now or I'm asking for attention, but it's just like this comment on the new shiny thing not really equating to the merit of art, if that makes sense. So
I completely understand what you're saying. And I feel like some people could be like, oh, like, what is she talking about? Like, she's super famous. And I'm like, I think it's more from like the perspective of the inner workings of some things, maybe.
Uh-huh.
And it's like when you're brand new, people are, it's almost, I feel like some of it could almost be like at the beginning a backhanded compliment.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Being like, oh, look at you, you're so good. Almost like patronizing slightly in the
Yeah.
way that people are excited and looking at your talent. Like, how is it even possible
Mhm.
that this girl can do this or whatever? And then as you get older and you get better at what you do, it's almost like they just assume that you're going to be like that. Like, it's just like,
Mhm.
yeah, okay, we knew you were good already. Like, what do you need? A gold star? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, no, I just want you to, like, I just feel like you don't think I'm capable anymore. Or there's like this, like, now that there's like somebody new on the scene, like, I thought you cared about me, but now you don't. Or just like
Yeah.
this perspective of thinking maybe relationships that you had with people when they wanted something from you, you
Yeah.
like don't get, you don't need, they don't need you anymore. And I think it would just be very confusing as a young person, no matter who you are, if you're famous or not, to be like, what is this? And then to have to look at it when you're older and be like, no, that was confusing, and like that does make sense. And
I will say there was a moment I felt like this around the time of Scream 6 because I was thinking like, well, now that Scream 6 is come and gone, like, are people still going to be interested in the podcast? How do I keep it fresh? And there's the reason why I wanted to do it for the season 5 premiere, because we're still going strong and we're still mixing things up and doing fun things that keep people interested and engaged and feeling like this is cool. But part of the reason why I wanted to do Joey's script for Scream 7 was because I wanted to especially do something that was novel, do something that was different and pivoted away from just covering there's a new movie coming out, because I had that for 2 full years leading up to Scream 5 and then leading up to Scream 6, and I wanted to do something that made the novelty something really new, and it was the biggest episode I've ever done. So I think that's like, just for me reflecting on the podcast, that's kind of the thing. But I want to go through some lines here, but I also just want to point out, this is, I didn't know this, Ash. So this was her first female collaboration where it's like a proper collaboration, like back and forth, right?
mhm.
Crazy. And also, it's just interesting that I don't even see it as a male gazy type of a song. I see it more so just as two professionals talking about their shared experience. Does that make sense?
No, totally. And I feel like the perspective of having two female artists discussing it gives it a really nice nuance than if it was another male singing it. And I feel like there might have been pressure for Taylor to have male features on before. Like, obviously, with people like Ed Sheeran and Kendrick Lamar, those were people that she really wanted to work with. But I wonder if there was pressure from different people like producing the album, or her saying, "Oh, this would be a collab," and people being like, "Well, it has to be a dude." And I feel like she would be open to having more women on it before, but I kind of love how it feels so fresh. And Phoebe Bridgers is would have been fairly young when this came out and would have been kind of like newer on the scene than Taylor was. So I think having that perspective of her is so beautiful, because I think there is something about fame that unless you're part of it, you're never going to understand it.
Yeah. Well, also the idea of like so I want to just connect it to Scream real quick, and then we're going to go through a couple lyrics. But Taylor uses the word ingenue. People love an ingenue, and this is of course what Jill says to Sydney before she stabs her. And again, like, I mean, like, you could I could see a world where Jill and Sydney are doing the song, or Sydney would be singing the Taylor parts and Jill would be singing the Phoebe parts. But Jill, the ingenue literally stabs Sydney in the stomach because she isn't the ingenue anymore, and she literally says, "Your ingenue days they're over." Like, that is so, I mean, that's so on the nose. I mean, like, Taylor would be like, "Whoa, that's a little obvious, Jill. Let's go for a little more subtlety." But no, I love that. Every time I hear Taylor say the word ingenue, I think of Jill Roberts, of course.
Yeah. I also imagined there's like a lyric that I imagine for Scream 3,
Oh,
which is, "I've had too much to drink tonight, but I wonder if they'll miss me once they drive me out. I wake up in the middle of the night and I can feel time moving. How can a person know everything at 18 but nothing at 22?" I imagine just like after the trauma of everything, Sydney like sitting there and just being like, ugh. Or maybe like, I don't know if it would be like in between 2 and 3 or after 3, but just like being like will anybody miss me after all of this is done? Like after all of this, like people will be like, oh God, thank God she's dead. So now we don't have to worry about more people getting murdered or whatever it is. And then how she says, I can feel time moving, and how can a person know everything at 18 but nothing at 22? Obviously, those ages aren't perfect, but feeling like when you're young, you know everything, and then all of a sudden, all of this craziness occurs, and you're like, I thought I knew what life was about or what life was going to be like, and I realized I had no idea.
Yeah. And those ages are so particular. Like I think that I think about that all the time. 18, how can a person know everything at 18 but nothing at 22? In a way that like we're valued and given all this attention at 18, right? And like then at 22 we are wiser. Why aren't you paying attention to us now that we've lived and learned a little bit? And like I think this could apply to anybody. I think everybody goes through this thing where, when we're young, we think we do know everything, right? And then at 22 or whenever we've reached, past that like young wild prime, it's like, oh shit, I am completely lost, and everything I thought I knew, I don't. Another line I love is, Lord, what will become of me when I've lost my novelty? Again, like you could apply it easily to women fearing about men, seeing them in different ways as they get older, but I see it more so about Taylor talking about herself as an artist. Like, what will become of me if I'm no longer new or people no longer appreciate what I'm doing because I'm just not the new thing anymore? I think that's really, really powerful.
Yeah, I love how like you did, like you thought about that perspective of like how like women might feel about it, because I never thought about that. And I love how like the guy is the one who thought like, I wonder if this is like her talking about how like women can feel this way. But I guess like
Ashley called me the guy.
the guy. Well, you are the guy.
I know.
The guy between me and you're the guy. I just like, I love how like you thought about that. I think it's like really lovely that you did, because I didn't even think about it that way. So I think that's really nice.
And then the last thing I want to say here is like, just because it needs to be pointed out, is so Taylor starts out the song by talking about, she says, when you're young, they encourage you to go out and have your fun, but then they hunt and slay the one who actually goes out and does it. And like the hypocrisy of that. And then they criticize the way you fly when you're flying through the sky, shoot you down, and then they mock you saying, wow, looks like you've been through it. Like that is so true. I'm sorry, but like, people encourage you to do something, and then when you do it, you're completely criticized for it. And like, again, as like, as a Scream public figure, I'm not a public figure. I'm just, I have social media accounts about Scream, but like I just noticed this, like whenever people tell you to do something, then you do it, and then they yell at you, and then they point at you like, what happened to you? Like, well, this happened, right? So I think that like this is actually a really good metaphor. Like she uses really good language to summarize this experience as a celebrity and as people who actually have the nerve to do something, and the way that other people judge you. And it doesn't even have to apply to celebrities. It could just be, low level, even within your own family, like your family saying, oh, you should do this. And then they criticize every little thing that you do until you don't want to. And then they're like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, I always thought about that as like, they're like, you're young, go have fun. And then as soon as she steps into a club or looks like she might have had a drink, people are like, how dare you? You're a role model. How dare you even think about drinking? I thought you were a good Christian girl. Like, what's wrong with you? And like, why are you dressed like that? Like, you look like a slut. Like, oh, you're going on a bunch of dates? Like, how dare you? But then they're just like, how can you sing about love songs when you're 16? You haven't even experienced it. And then when you do experience love, you're criticized for it. It's like that double-edged sword that I feel like a lot of women feel, which is like, you're a prude or you're a skank. And it's like, I feel like there's so many ways that people can relate to this song. And if I hope that we might have some Phoebe Bridger fans out there who might want to like discover Taylor through this, or maybe you can discover Phoebe through it, because I feel like if you are enjoying these songs that you'll really love Phoebe. I think she's so cool. And if Taylor isn't your full cup of tea, I highly recommend that you check out Phoebe, because I think she's fantastic.
Awesome. Ash, where can they find you online?
You can find me at SquirrelandSpud9 on Instagram. There you'll find my Etsy store and Ryan and I's Scream Puzzle of the Week. We have a lot of fun doing them. Sometimes I try to incorporate Ryan's face into them in the background and see if people notice. And yeah, sometimes you'll see another one pop up randomly. We did we'll do some fun ones every once in a while too for different themes. So definitely keep an eye out there, and definitely say hello.
Ashley did the Scream Game of the Week this past week, and it was like a screenshot of Milton's office. And like there's a lot of shit in Milton's office in Scream 3, and you have all of the characters in it. Ashley not only put me in there, she put Taylor. I found Taylor. Taylor was one of the 7 things that changed. I did not find myself. I found 5 of the 7. So whenever someone's like, oh, I see Ryan, I'm like, what? You know, so.
Anybody notice that I put Ryan's face in this?
Oh my gosh, that's funny. All right, Ash, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All copyrighted material used or referenced in this show belong to their rightful owners and made possible by the Fair Use Act.
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
Get another beer, you want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back!